I'd like to introduce you to Akose. I met Akose this past August on my second trip to Ghana. She wasn't at camp last year because she was pregnant and she didn't want to come to camp because she was ashamed. This year we talked her into coming, and I'm so glad we did because I got to connect with her. You see, Akose and I have a lot in common. Akose had a baby boy at 16 and I had a baby at 17. I was unmarried at the time and Akose is unmarried. And so I see a lot of myself in her 25 years ago. A little afraid, a little unsure, a little hardened. But we both want the same things for our boys. We just want the best for them. And so as I got to talk to Akose and connect with her that week, I got to hear a lot about her story. And I realized the thing that I thought was the hardest thing I ever endured in my life was really probably a piece of cake compared to what Akose is going through, because Akose is raising her son in the slums of Accra, Ghana. Akose is an orphan. She doesn't have two parents to tell her that it'll be okay or that they'll help her. She's doing this all by herself, raising this child alone in a place that's unsafe and unhealthy and a little scary. And when we came to the end of the week, we come to this last day of camp, and it's always a really sad time because we know they're going back to the slums. I know I'm coming back home to my place of comfort. And so we get to this end assembly, and in between there's all of this chaos of them getting ready and getting all of their things to get to the bus, and we're in this chaotic moment and everything's loud around us, and she comes up to me and she says, "Madame, I do not have a Bible." And I felt like in that moment God was saying to me, "You need to give her your Bible." And I argued with God because I didn't want to give up my Bible. My Bible had been with me through all the hard times. I had read from it. I had studied it. I had taught from it. In fact, there were a few nights where it was by my side through times where sorrow threatened to swallow me whole. I was not going to give her mine. In fact, I thought it would be better if she had one in her own language. And so I even asked her, I said, "Akose, wouldn't you like to have one in Tree?" And she said, "No, Madame, I would like it in English." And it was in that moment I knew I had to give her my Bible. And so without much time to wrestle with the decision, I handed it over. And I told her this had gotten me through some of the darkest times in my life. And now it would be the light that would get her through some of the darkest times in her life. And so she took it and she got on the bus and she went away. And the next day I got on the airplane and I flew back to my place of comfort, and I realized I learned something that day about sacrifice. I mean, what is sacrifice if it doesn't sting a little? What is sacrifice if it doesn't cost you something? You see, I thought going to Ghana was my sacrifice, but God called me to something deeper. He called me to let go of something that meant so much to me, but now could be a gift to her. Maybe God's calling you tonight to make a sacrifice. Maybe He's calling you to send a child to school, or maybe send another child to school. Maybe it's financial, or maybe it's something else. Maybe He's calling you to go to Ghana next summer, or maybe to spend more time in prayer for these children. So I just have to ask you, what are you willing to sacrifice?